Thank you for these two keynote addresses, and it's very good to see that institutions in Europe and in Korea are already looking very closely at the topic and have a structured approach. And we will actually start the exchange today with an overview of the Korean and European digital policies. So I will welcome now a speech from Sang-Wook Lee, who is director of the Digital New Deal Support Division of MSIT, and who will explain about the Digital New Deal and what comes next. Thank you. And now I will give the floor to Mr. Bernard Barany from DigiConnect in the European Commission, where he is Deputy Head of Unit for Future Connectivity Systems. Bernard, the floor is yours for the EU vision of future connectivity beyond 5G. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot to you, Xavier. First of all, can you hear me and see my slides?
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Super, thanks a lot. And again, good morning or good afternoon, and many thanks for the opportunity to participate in this very interesting and important workshop. And on my side, just a few words of context. So I belong to a unit called Future Connectivity Systems, where our responsibility is basically twofold. One is on 5G policy, which is at this moment in time focused on 5G deployment in Europe. And the second of our main activities is related to industrial competitiveness and European industry leadership through support with tools like research tools or deployment tools. So at this moment in time, to give you a very, very quick policy context of the European Union, we work under the policy context which has been defined by the new Commission of President von der Leyen, where we have digital, which has been identified as a key priority for this Commission. And another one, very important, of the 6 policy priorities which have been identified is the so-called Green Deal. That means to make Europe carbon neutral by 2050, which in our view has a lot of consequences and impact on whatever we will undertake in the context of digital technologies. At this moment in time, just to take a snapshot of the European situation in 5G deployments. So the deployment is moving ahead with about 50 networks deployed in 24 member states. We are not as advanced as the other regions in the world, like China or Korea or the US. But what is needing at this moment in time is scale, and we are really working for that through, in particular, policy tools that have been put in place by this new Commission, which is in particular the so-called Next-Gen EU or the Resilience and Recovery Fund, where we will have a 750 billion euro budget, which has been identified to, let's say, combat the adverse effect of the COVID crisis. And our president has decided that of this envelope, 20% should be dedicated to digital technologies. And under this 20%, which is about 150 billion, a good amount will be related to support to deployment of 5G in Europe, including other tools that we will put together to foster, for instance, deployment along the main transport paths of Europe, where we have another program where we intend to cover in the next few years 26,000 of motorways in Europe covered by 5G. And just to give you a very last piece of information on our policy context, a couple of weeks ago, the Commission published a so-called digital decade or digital compass, which identify very clear digital objectives for the year 2030, and one of them being to focus on the connectivity element of it, being a full 5G coverage in Europe. including availability of edge networking capabilities through the deployment of at least 10,000 edge nodes that will be part of this overall digital ambition in the context of connectivity. So all this to set the scene. Now, of course, as was said already by several speakers in the introduction, we have now to prepare for the future. The future in the context of connectivity and in the context of our ambition for connectivity is to prepare what comes beyond 5G, or what some people call 6G. And this is, in our view, very timely, because we can see that there are a lot of initiatives now taking shape in various regions of the world, including, of course, Korea, which is bold ambitions in this particular field. More interestingly is that we see that nations like the United States, which in the 5G era had the tendency, or the trend was rather to leave it to market forces, now is coming back very strongly into, let's say, public support and making this technological next wave a matter of public interest. On our side, we have a partnership which I will describe in a few more details, which is now being prepared, the so-called smart networks and services that David Ringrose mentioned in his speech. But we see also that in multiple member states, we have also initiatives taking shape, such as Finland, which already announced in February 2019. Bold, the 6G initiative, but also Germany, a couple of weeks ago, they announced a 600 million euro 6G initiative. And our ambition is also to kind of create very strong synergies between what we do at the European Union level and what is being done at the level of the member states, in such a way that public investments are really taken to their maximum output and have their maximum efficiency. But okay, on our side, I was trying to say that we started already to think a little bit of what might come beyond 5G with the European stakeholders, taking into account this kind of usual type of statements, such as a new generation takes about 10 years to develop from the moment you start early research until the moment you deploy the first, let's say, the first release of the new technology. So 5G was a little bit, let's say, faster, but not so much faster. And we have identified a couple of elements with, again, in the background, the idea that we should contribute strongly to the European policy agenda, which has been set by the Commission and by them together with the Council. Now, if you look at the top right of this diagram, one thing we believe is that we will continue very strongly to support digitization of industry and to make whatever comes beyond 5G useful and usable in the context of vertical use cases. Vertical use cases is something which has been initiated with 5G. What we expect when discussing with several sectors, industrial sectors, and maybe in particular the factory domains that Andreas Müller maybe will speak a bit later about, are domains, or even connected cars, are domains which are really pushing the envelope. So if 5G will allow us to initiate quite interesting set of applications and use cases in these particular domains, probably there are other type of use case which will require even better performances compared to what 5G is capable of supporting, be it in terms of latency, in terms of throughput, or even in terms of density, if we think of very highly connected smart cities, as was discussed by the previous colleague from Korea. And these applications, of course, is really what dictates the potential return on investment of the technology, and what makes the investment worth into this technology. On the other hand, we see completely new classes of application. Here, the diagram is not necessarily entirely correct. So this is the top left corner of the diagram. XR, holographic communication, digital twins, will be to an extent already possible with 5G, but when we see this being deployed with massive deployment, we believe that there will be a need to go beyond what is 5G is capable of offering. And we see also new classes of applications which are potentially merging sensing and communication capabilities, what some people call the Internet of Sense, which are new sets of application which will potentially make a new technology valid and viable. Now, if I move at the very bottom of this slide, we have what we call the societal focus, and this is something which is, of course, very close to the ambition of to the heart of the Commission, because we want to support, let's say, very strong societal aspects, in particular energy efficiency, which is part of the Green Deal ambition that this Commission has put forward, in such a way that on the one hand, we can be sure that networks move towards a very, very low or super low energy consumption platform, but also that they allow to use the vertical use cases on top of the platforms with the maximum energy efficiency and with the minimum carbon footprint. So these are two dimensions we are very strongly looking at this moment in time. But not only when we talk about the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, we talk about affordability of the technology. And this is something that will probably be pushed by either new approaches to networks, such as those already started with NTN, non-terrestrial networks, or those which are started with new architectures, disaggregated type of architectures and softwareization of networks, which potentially lower the market entry barriers to the technology, and which have potentially something interesting to offer to make the technology more affordable. We can talk about EMF as well, which is a very strong concern of citizens and of populations. And here again, we see that there are technological avenues that may allow to combat or to minimize the exposure of electromagnetic wave radiations to the populations. So these are very important elements and aspects that we want to relate to the development of future technologies and systems. And of course, in the middle is we can see all the elements which allow to introduce new services or to make the platforms extremely efficient in terms of management, which are based on artificial intelligence massive introduction in such a way that the network can be managed from the physical layer up to the application layer in the best possible way. And last aspect, which is related to network management, is very strong and very high level of security in the wake of all the discussions that have taken place worldwide to secure 5G networks. And beyond 5G network, security will be a very important element, including also, of course, the element of trust and security, which are very important for users. So these are the kind of, let's say, high-level requirements that we are currently considering in the context of moving towards 6G or beyond 5G. We have already started early January this year a set of 9 projects under the current framework program, which is called Horizon 2020. And under this program, we have implemented one so-called flagship project, which is called HexaX, which is led, let's say, by the key players of the telecommunication sector in Europe. And this project is really looking into the vision of 6G and what could be the underlying technological blocks that could support this vision. And around this project are 8 other projects which are more related to dedicated and specific technologies. For instance, if you take Reindeer or Rise 5G, they are very much looking into this new interesting concept, which is called reflective intelligent surfaces. TerraFlow is looking towards the way to have a complete edge cloud continuum. That means from the data center to the device, in such a way that various service capabilities are completely unified across the value chain. And so on. So other projects are very much looking into the use of artificial intelligence at various levels of the value chain. And this is, let's say, our bridging phase into the next initiative that we are now preparing, which is called the Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking, which is a partnership with industry. As you can see on this diagram, it is supported by a set of industrial associations, which are reflecting different type of interest, because as David said, we believe that we have to take a kind of holistic approach towards 6G, moving from the terminals with the IoT perspective up to the service delivery platform, which is the cloud or the edge cloud. And these people represent various sectors of that value chain. We will have under this initiative two pillars. One pillar, which is again very much deployment oriented, which is called the CEF2 Connected Europe Facility, with about €1 billion, which will be injected to support the deployment of 5G along the main transport paths and pan-European cross-border corridors in Europe. So that's one element, which is more a deployment element. But this also includes the full research part, which will receive a €900 million budget from our program to, let's say, fine-tune and to define and fine-tune the 6G vision and the various underpinning to work on the various underpinning technologies towards eventually their standardization, of course, since we are in a standardization domain. Now, our approach is to take a so-called value chain approach. That means what we want to do, we want to take our strong European leadership in network technologies to boost other domains in the terminal domains, taking advantage not necessarily of the smartphone, but of taking advantage of all the connected devices that will be connected, and there are quite a few if you take the IoT perspective, where our intention is really to catalyze the emergence of EU industrial capabilities in this device domain, based also on dedicated work on specific components, which is something we did not do so much in the context of 5G. And at the other end of the scale, we intend to develop specific technological capabilities in the context of cloud and edge cloud to support the services, the network services, which will be potentially dematerialized or cloudified and integrated as a software type of services. All this, of course, let's say, done in the context of transverse constraints, which are the end-to-end resource management and energy efficiency, and the end-to-end security and trust, which you can see on the right-hand side of this slide. So beyond these 6 projects that I mentioned, we have identified a kind of time planning, which, as was already indicated, there will be a vision paper from ITU, which is supposed to be delivered early 2023. So we are working towards fueling and let's say contributing to this vision paper, which will be an important paper, very much the same as the recommendation M2083 for 5G was in the ITU context or in the global context. We expect the standardization to start somewhere in 2025, so that's our best guess at this moment in time. I must say that not all actors have the same views on that, so this is the kind of common denominator, but not necessarily the view of each and every actor, towards deployment in 2030. So this is the timing we are considering at this moment in time. At this moment in time, also, we are working towards the first work program of this SNS partnership, which we hope will be launched by the end of this year. But before doing that, we have to get the Council, the European Council approval to legally establish this partnership, because this partnership is a formal public-private partnership with industry, which has to be backed by a legal basis, which is, if you want, the kind of birth certificate of the SNS partnership. The very last word on international cooperation aspect, we see this as, of course, very important, taking into account the fact that communication networks are global platforms and they require global standards. So this is something we are very much attached to in Europe. I mean, to have technology, to have the technology kind of specified in global standardization bodies, and this is something where we will again very much support, and to prepare also global ecosystems, especially when we have now a set of use cases which is getting so diverse. We believe it's important also to help the various sectors to get aware of the technology and to test it and to trial it, and the global perspective is always better in our view. In our view, it requires also a minimum level of alignment on a few things. Of course, we need to have similar visions and roadmaps. The use cases must be, let's say, similar. The timing is very important. I mean, if various regions work with very different timings, it doesn't make the collaboration easier. Spectrum also is something where we had quite a few difficulties in 5G to kind of have, let's say, global spectrum views for the 5G deployment, which in our view, the best we can converge on these issues, the better it is to create precisely these global ecosystems that we are calling for. So you can have a few more information on our couple of websites here. And if you are also interested in getting more familiar with the initiative we are putting in place, we will have next week our yearly virtual conference. Unfortunately, it has to be virtual this time. EUCMC conference will be in theory in Porto, but it will be virtual. And on the 11th of June in the afternoon, if you subscribe to it, it's free. If you register to that, there will be a dedicated session on the SNS partnership for the stakeholders who want to participate in that. And with this, I finish my presentation, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bernard and Mr. Lee, for these two very informative presentation that really helps setting up the context and give us basically the framework, I mean, policy-wise, for both Korea and Europe.